Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining this presentation and the panel, and by extension, the conference. My name is Lomarsh Roopnarine, and I am from Guyana, and I am currently stationed here at Jackson State University in the southern United States. Before I start this presentation formally, I would like to say two things. One is that in my dispatched abstract, I stated that I will talk about two biographies. And because of time, I have restricted my presentation to one biography, and that is Balgobin Persaud, the iconic Babu, which you can see on the screen. The other thing I want to mention is that I came across Balgobin Persaud about 10 years ago when I was doing research at the Guyana National Archives in Georgetown. And I ran into some very limited information, but very important information. And about 3 years ago, I wrote a short article on Balgobin Persaud, and when I was writing for the Guyana Times. That article resonated widely, so much so that it caught the attention of a fellow by the name of Mr. Sundar Singh in London. And so he was very much interested in Mr. Persaud's, this young man's life. And so he assisted me in gathering a number of information through the archives there in England. And so I would like to take this opportunity to thank him. Thank you, Mr. Singh, for sharing that information with me, which I'm using in this presentation to share with you. Thank you again. Now, without getting involved in too much theoretical analysis, I would like to just state some basic things about why I think this man's biographic life is very important to present and talk about and even write about. The reasons I'm interested in his biography are that the literature on biographies are limited during indenture, especially in relation to British Guiana. Many individual stories are buried in the depths of major history, and so they're drowned out. So I thought that presenting his life would be something important, something interesting. Now, why is it important? Well, he was the first Indian to win the prestigious Guyana Scholarship. It was a scholarship given to one person every year, and I'm not sure when it started, but I think it was going on at least for 100 years. The scholarship was eventually abolished, I think, in 1966 in Guyana, when the country became independent. But what is interesting about the Guyana Scholarship in regard to the indenture experience, Balgobin was the first one to win it, and during indenture, 8 years of indenture. So I think he was now such ordinary person, and I think his achievements should be talked about, should be highlighted, should be discussed. So that is an importance. We also need to document and share our ancestors' achievements. I think we have a limited sort of understanding of our ancestors' achievements during and after indenture. Now, the significance. Well, really, is to influence more research on minor histories, individual histories. As I stated before, many are buried in the larger depths of the larger history. Okay. Now, some background information. Now, his father, Bani Thakur, also called Beni Persaud, was an indentured laborer. Two names were given, And so I'm not sure which is his correct name, but this is the nature of the indentured experience, misinformation, mislabeling, and so on. But either name will be okay. He arrived in British Guiana in 1884, so he was not born in British Guiana and was indentured to Plantation Enmore. He was 19 years old, so he arrived as a young man. He eventually broke out of the indenture system, was able to become a shopkeeper in a place called Golden Grove Village on the east coast of Demerara, not too far from Plantation Enmore. Balgobin's mother, Bifwa, was a Muslim, I believe. One name was given according to the records. And she was born in British Guiana in 1870. Now, what is interesting here is some crossing of dynamics based on geography and also based on faith. Balgobin's father was migratory. He came off the boat, so to speak, and was spending time in British Guiana as an indentured servant, whereas his mother was born in British Guiana. So those are some of the dynamics that were going on at this particular time. Also, both came from different backgrounds. His father was pretty much, one can say, a middle caste Hindu, and his mother was of a Muslim background. And this was rather interesting at this time because interfaith marriage in India was rather rare. And some of the dynamics in terms of differences played out in British Guiana at this time. Now, Balgobin was born in November 19, 1898. This is rather also interesting because during this time, the Commission of Inquiry was set to come into Guyana and the Caribbean islands to do an investigation to see whether the indenture system was just, or to make a sort of a final statement on whether the indenture system should continue or not. And also at this time, Indians were not only beginning to settle in Guyana and the wider Caribbean, many were weighing the option of returning back or staying in Guyana. And so we were kind of lucky here that Balgobin's parents did not leave Guyana permanently. They might have gone back on a short visit, but I doubt it. They had stayed on and made settle into British Guiana, called British Guiana their home. So had they gone back, Balgobin Persaud would have gone back as a baby, and so I wouldn't be here talking to you, obviously. So I'm not sure if he ever worked in a plantation, but I suspect he helped his parents in the store, the grocery store, but also think he was somehow connected to the larger plantation system, either directly or indirectly, because Enmore was pretty much, and still is, a plantation environment. So it's almost inescapable not to have some sort of connection. So in 1910, at the age of 12, he won the primary school scholarship and entered Queen's College. Now, Queen's College is not really a college as we know it, a four-year institution. It's really an advanced sort of high school, very reputable one in Georgetown. And so Balgobin was really showing a lot of promise here. He had written what they call a common entrance, he passed it, and so he went to a school pretty much was not only reputable, everything was paid for. Now, in 1916, he graduated from Queen's College, and this is where his life started to pick up in terms of interest, at least to me. Now, I know you cannot see this information here, but I put it up anyway because this is his certificate, his high school certificate he got from the University of Cambridge. And I know the prints are kind of small, but if you go down further down the certificate, you will see that he passed gospel and other subjects related to Christianity. He also passed in the English language and French and Latin, as well as mathematics. what this, what this certificate is telling us, that Balgobin is at the verge of making a transition from the plantation onto a sort of a new life, because the Queen's College, the teachings there was designed to prepare students not only to work in the civil service in the colonies, but also prepare them to further studies abroad, but also work in the mother country, in this case, England. And so one can say that Balgobin was straddling towards, or two worlds rather, that from the plantation base that he was coming from and the new world he's going into. So I think he had a sort of an elastic relationship where he juxtaposed this plantation life with a sort of a Western-oriented life. And I find that very interesting. Now, we know that he attended Middle Temple in 1917. He probably most likely took a boat with all the immigrants going to England and got there 3 months later. Now, Middle Temple really was one of those four inns of the court exclusively entitled to call the members to the English bar as barristers or lawyers. The others being the Inner Temple, the Gray's Inn, and the Lincoln's Inn. And these are really reputable places where students from the colonies will go to study to become a lawyer or a barrister, and then come back to the colonies to practice. Some stayed back in the mother country, but this was a pattern then. So Balgobin, now the first Indian really that emerged out of this plantation indenture system, is making this journey. I can't think of any others at this particular time during the indenture period. Now, we know that he attended Middle Temple because this is some information here. This is sort of application that he was accepted. So he went there and he did not desert the school. He stayed on and eventually graduated. Now, we know that he was there as well, and these are important informational leisure that speaks to the things that he paid for. And so again, this information then punctuates the point that he did attend college. Sometimes people go abroad and they just, give up going to school and do other things. That's not the case with him. At this point, we get him to trace his life. But later on, things will get kind of into a gray area, so to speak. Now, what is interesting here, this is a petition, and he petitioned to leave not the inn, but Clare College. Clare College is a branch of Cambridge University. And so here the information started to confuse me. Initially, the information is pointing that he went directly to the law school and study law. But here's another information saying, no, he actually went to Clare College first and finished a bachelor's degree and then went on to do a law degree. Now, what is so important here, I think, is that in the larger scheme of things, it demonstrated that he was a very a brilliant guy, a brilliant individual, because he was exploring opportunities not in one institution, but in many others, in this case, two. And that's all we know of him at this point. Now, I know a lot of information here. Now, this information was handed down to me by the fellow I mentioned, Mr. Singh. And Mr. Singh got this information from a couple of archivists, really, from Clare College. What this is saying here is that he enrolled in Clare College in 1917. Again, this information tend to contradict that he went to the inn first. Now, and then he finished his bachelor's degree in 1920, and then he applied or he attended the law school, Middle Temple, in 1921. Again, this is what makes this young man's life so interesting. There's so many threads to it, so many strands. I'm trying to put these pieces together. Again, he was the first Indian who had emerged during the plantation system to win a scholarship in Guyana to go overseas to study. And I think we need to get more information on him. So this should be put in the history books, at least the ones dealing with indenture. Now, I know I'm running out of time here, so the conclusions I've drawn so far is that Balgobin's life demonstrated that the dynamics during indenture are more complex and more multifaceted than previously thought. Not all, or the majority of Indians were all indentured and uneducated, but only really driven by economics. Some, like Balgobin, have done very well educationally. And it might have been authors like Balgobin whose lives we have to discover, whose lives we have to unearth to bring a sort of the indenture experience, a sort of full circle, okay? So that's one conclusion. The other, his life reveals that there's some missing link in this historical narrative, not only of Guyana alone, but the wider Caribbean and also the wider indentured experience. And so his life, a more understanding of what transpired during indenture, okay? And also his life really is excluded in the historical texts that our current generation, even past generation, and the future generation is using. And so we need to right this historical wrong in terms of bringing more visibility of some of the things Balgobin did as a young man, the Babu, as I called him, so that we could have a more accurate representation of who we are. Again, the idea here is to promote more research on biographies of people on the indenture, not only in Guyana, but elsewhere in the indentured world, so that we can hand over the meaningful information to our younger generation, who then can reconstruct or construct history in a manner that we contemporary historians might have not able to do, to make it sort of more simplistic. In conclusion, I am in the process of writing an article on this young man's life, and I think I'll finish that by sometime next year or next year, and I hopefully will get published and it'll be disseminated. So this is really a skeleton view of Balgobin's life, and I really believe that his life parallels so many other indentured Indians during the indenture, and that it's important to bring his life to the fore. Much to be said here. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.